Pesci, the pickle-headed man, goes on the rampage as he goes fishing for hearts in another crazy, wacky, and super inventive episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind. Isn't it amazing how Pesci went from being like this jokey, almost bebop and rocksteady styled villain to end up being one of the scariest characters of the entire series? And that's all because of his stand, the Beach Boy! Yes, it finally goes on the attack in this episode against Bruno Survive. And what's really great about this episode is how it ended with that amazing cliffhanger from the end of the last episode where Prosciutto jumped out of the train with Bruno Survive. And in this episode, you get to see that they barely are able to hold on this entire time, all because Pesci actually uses his Beach Boy, the frickin' fishing rod, to grab onto Prosciutto as they're just barely on the train. And this entire scene is so incredibly tense because they are going like 150 miles an hour. One wrong move basically means these characters are fallen and they are dead as fuck. And of course, Bruno Survive is incredibly awesome because he is actually able to switch places with Prosciutto through the use of his stand, using his sticky fingers to actually like unzip his hand, get inside of the actual hook, switch places, and Prosciutto presumably just ends up falling to his death. That moment alone was awesome and so incredibly great on Bruno Survive's part, showing that under extreme pressure, he can even utilize his stand in amazing and awesome ways. But believe it or not, Prosciutto actually manages to survive, somehow getting all of his limbs and arms completely mangled in the process and getting stuck under the undercarriage of the train. And since he's still technically on board, his stand, the Grateful Dead, is still going to cause everyone on board to start to age rapidly. Bruno recognizes this and he realizes that the only thing he's going to have to do at this point is to ignore Prosciutto and to go after Pesci, who has gone through something of a crazy transformation. You see, when Prosciutto starts to disappear for a little while, some of the people on the train start to go back to their normal ages, and this one guy confronts Pesci, desperately trying to tell him to find someone to stop the train. People have been affected by some crazy disease, until eventually Pesci just loses his shit, realizing what is probably happening here, and he decides to just end up killing this guy who ends up shriveling into nothing. What's crazy about this scene is that Pesci actually mentions this is the first time that he's done someone in, which is to say it's the first time that he's actually killed someone, and this moment just transforms him from this like dorky dumb villain into this sociopathic murderer, this super creepy dude who's going to do everything in his power to take down Bruno Survive. And that leads to one of the most creative scenes of the series, where Bruno gets back in the train by, of course, using the sticky fingers and zippering his way inside, but he still has the hook inside of him, and even when he like unzips his hand, it still manages to go right back into his body. So he does something incredibly drastic. He completely unzippers different portions of his body, his torso, his arms, his legs, and even his very heart itself by cutting it in half, zipper style, basically stopping his breathing and his heart beating altogether, to the point where Pesci cannot even sense a living thing in that train car anymore, desperately realizing that there's a good chance that he probably escaped. So he decides to bring that back, the train gets stopped, and as he's walking outside to help out Prosciutto, Bruno Survive just casually walks outside from the train, unzipping through the walls, and they have this, like, amazing, like, Western standoff with each other. The scene was so awesome. The lighting in particular was just perfect, with the sun just setting during this moment, and the fact that Pesci is now more confident and can literally, like, fish the hearts out of people is just so damned crazy. But of course, Bruno does end up defeating him in what might be one of the coolest deaths of the entire series, where initially Pesci actually does get his hook inside of Bruno's heart, but Bruno is able to turn the tables on him using his very own stand against him, utilizing the power of sticky fingers to create even more tension on the rope, wrapping it around Pesci's neck, pulling it as hard as he can to the point where it completely twists his neck all the way around and snaps it. There's no way he's going to get out of this, but he does have one desperate attempt in order to get his mission completed. He releases Trish, and he's planning to destroy the turtle with everyone inside. But that's when Bruno decides to finish him off in the blaze of glory with the classic flurry of punches that the JoJo series is known for. It's beyond satisfying. It's made even better by the fact that after he does this, you get to see that he utilizes Sticky Fingers' ability to basically just shred Pesci into pieces. It's all followed by him falling into the lake with his body parts exploding everywhere, with Bruno just uttering out the most awesome Arrivederci I have ever heard. I'm telling you guys, this scene was just so fucking incredible. I went from 6 to midnight. So Pesci is dead, Prosciutto is dead, and Bruno's gang know that they're probably going to be followed by another attacker, and they decide to escape. I'm not sure what their means of escape is going to be this time, but it looks like the next assassin is going to be this like weird sort of like mask-wearing dude who actually ends up collecting some of Bruno Bucciarati's blood in some bottles, and I'm not sure what this is going to be for, but it might actually allow them to track them perfectly. Who knows what sort of stand power this guy's going to have? All I know is I'm pumped up. So what's the rundown on this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind? This was such a crazy conclusion to this arc right here. Just so much creativity was actually put into it, and it was just so continuous throughout the course of the entire episode. But that scene where Bruno actually ends up tricking Prosciutto and allows him to just sort of fly off the side of the train, for me, that might be my favorite moment of the entire episode. That and, of course, Bruno's final attack on Pesci, which was just so visually awesome looking. Incredibly, like, just painful looking, too, with the amount of punches that he delivered. But that shot of watching all of his body parts just sort of, like, float in midair, almost like a Mortal Kombat fatality, was just so damn great. And set against the setting sun was just so visually cool. I also love that this episode showed yet again that these characters don't necessarily have to use their stands in order to, like, be, like, a brick house power fighter. Like, they can use them in so many interesting ways. Like the fact that Guido Misto was able to use just one of the Sex Pistols to help out Bruno throughout the course of this entire battle by keeping ice with him the entire time. And I mentioned it in my last review, how the fact that the Sex Pistols do continuously change size, and I thought that was kind of weird. And some of you commented that it's actually not that strange for stands to change size. You're right, I completely forgot all about that stuff in Stardust Crusaders, how they actually are able to shrink their stands down into various different sizes. So that was my bad on my part. But still, now that I know that, it doesn't really bother me as much. It is still a little glaring to see it actually happen just sort of randomly at times, but still, it didn't really take away my overall enjoyment of the episode, which was absolutely breakneck in every way. This episode, though, like, the main star of it is Pesci, though. He was just so great. They did a great job of, like, building him up as this, like, real doofus kind of character, but here, he was really scary and actually had the ability to, like, just fish people's hearts out of their body. Like, a couple of people got some bad luck in this episode. One dude got his heart ripped out, and it's like, damn, that just sucks to be that fucking guy. Like, it was just crazy the way that it was actually portrayed. But again, Bruno Bucciarati episodes are always so fun because his powers seem so one note in the way that they work, but damn it, they always manage to do something that makes it interesting in some way. Who would have thought that having zipper powers would be this badass? It's awesome. In my last episode, I said I really liked Guido Misto, but at the same time, Bruno Bucciarati is definitely one of my favorite characters from the series, just from this episode alone. Damn, this was some good stuff. I'm going to give this episode a 5 out of 5. You guys need to check it out. It's fucking awesome. I loved it. Check it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the episode, your favorite moments, moments that made you freak out, your favorite character from the episode, and how do you think they're actually going to escape from this next guy? What's the deal with the blood in the bottles? Let's just get a discussion going. Another crazy episode of JoJo. Thank you all for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down, baby.